The sermon today is entitled Missing in Action. Some of you remember the movie about that probably, but it's godly men in the church. That's what's missing in action. Bill Cosby in his book Fatherhood writes, "Now, my father is a grandfather. He just can't wait to give money to my kids. But when I was a kid, I would ask for 50 cents and he would tell me the story of his life. How he got up at 5 a.m. When he was 7 years old, he walked 23 miles to milk 90 cows. The farmer for whom he worked had no bucket, so he had to squirt the milk into his little hand and carry it 9 miles to dump it in the nearest can. All for 5 cents a month. The result was I never got my 50 cents. And now he tells my children every time they come into the house, well, let's see how much money Granddad has in his pocket for his wonderful kids. And the minute they take the money out of his hand, I call it over to me and I snatch it away from them because it's my money." Well, this lady, she writes about her children that had been begging for a hamster. Just begging and begging. That's my granddaughter's in California. Do they have hamsters or gerbils?
Guinea pigs.
Oh, see, they're all the same. They look like something you wouldn't want to eat.
Yeah.
But they begged, and after begging long enough, and then said that they would take care of them, that they would feed them, water them, clean their cage. How many have heard that before? Right? Yeah, okay. They finally got one. They named him Danny. 2 months later, Mom said she found herself cleaning out that cage, feeding that creature she located, though, finally, after doing all that, and finally she was responsible. She found a new home for it. The children took the news of Danny's imminent departure quite well, though one of them remarked, "He's been around here a long time, we'll miss him." "Yes," Mom replied, "but he's too much work for one person, and since I'm that person, I say he goes." Another child offered, "Well, maybe if he wouldn't eat so much and wouldn't be so messy, we could keep him." But Mom was firm. "It's time to take Danny to his new home now," she insisted. "Go get his cage." With one voice and tearful outrage, the children shouted, "Danny! We thought you said Danny!" Well, this will tell you if you're one of those fathers missing in action, right? If your kids would sooner give up the guinea pig, gerbil, hamster, whatever it is, than you. Well, this morning I want to address 3 areas that are lacking in men. These deficiencies are found not only inside the church, but are found outside the church. And these 3 deficiencies, if I can get that word out, I should have picked a shorter word. These 3 problems that us men have are the way that men love their wives, the way that men love their children, and the way that men love their Savior. If you want to write down 3 points today, that's it. The way men love their wives, the way men love their children, the way men love their Savior. She said, "Honey, do you love me?" And he said, "Well, I told you the day I asked you to marry me. When we got engaged, I told you I loved you. And if I ever change my mind, I'll let you know." Not too assuring, is it? Well, men, I want to challenge you this morning that saying "I love you" is not the same as loving your wife. Paul, in his writings to the Ephesians, put it in a very powerful way how we as husbands are to love our wives. And this is from the Message Bible. "Husbands, go all out in your love for your wives, exactly as Christ did for the church. A love marked by giving, not getting. Christ's love makes the church whole. His words about her beauty, everything he does and says is designed to bring the best out of her. Dressing her in dazzling white silk, radiant with holiness. That is how husbands ought to love their wives." And some of you men are going, "Boy, I'm in trouble already."
This is Father's Day, Eric.
Yeah, it's Father's Day. That's why you're getting it today, Brian. But this is not the kind of love we see on TV, is it? What we see on TV is deceitful love, selfish love, rude love. But God did not create a wife or a man to be treated this way. He designed love in marriage. When you love your wife, it's not in what you say, it's how you show it. It says, love your wife as Christ loved the church. This will be a love marked by giving, not getting. Now, you think, okay, there's a limit on what I can give to my wife. Well, we're not talking about giving lots of gifts, although those will hurt. And I'm not talking about giving lots of flowers, although that's all right. I usually plant flowers for my wife, and then I buy her some on the side. It's always a safety thing, you know, to buy those on the side. But it's in giving of yourself, of your time, of your efforts. How many honeydew lists never get done? Because, I just don't want to do it. It'll be a love marked by sacrifice. Now that guy's probably vacuuming. Am I right? Is he vacuuming?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that's what that picture was. That's sacrifice for some guys. To vacuum the floor. But notice, he's also babysitting. And he's also doing what? Teaching by example. And the little guy, he's got his little popper vacuum out there, and he's just going away, doing what Dad does. Christ died for the church. We should live for our wives. You know, the one guy said, that he really sacrificed because, he would take a bullet for his wife. And the next guy said, well, I would step in front of a train for my wife. And the next guy says, you don't know what sacrifice is. I live with my wife. I mean, for my wife. For my wife. Well, the words that we choose when we talk about and talk to our wife should bring radiance into their lives. They should not be put downs. They should be lift ups. Now, of course, if you watch any late night comedian, you know that all they do is put downs, right? Most comedians know that if they use put downs, people will laugh. But there's nothing funny when you're out in public and you see somebody putting their wife down. Some of you have been there. You've seen people you know, and they're degrading their wife, putting them down. Maybe she knocked something off the shelf, and he called her clumsy or made a bad joke about her in front of everybody, instead of saying, here, let me help you pick that up. We have a long way to go as men if we're going to live to the standard that Christ set for us. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. I could quit now and would feel convicted already, but I'll go on. Men, love your children. Ephesians 6:4 says, fathers, don't exasperate your children by coming down hard on them. Take them by the hand and lead them in the way of the master. Lead them. We live in a society today where men don't want to grow up. It's all about the party life. They seem to want to be friends to their children, though, instead of dads. I don't want them to not like me, they say. Well, boo, hoo, hoo. Guess what, man? If you think that being friends to your children instead of being a father will make them like you, you're in for a big surprise. What you need is respect from your children, and you have to earn respect. Now, when I was in the military, and some of you were in the military, there was a guy called a drill sergeant. And you respected that guy, didn't you? Because he could make your life miserable. Or he could make your life okay. It was never great. But he could make your life miserable. Now, I'm not suggesting that we become drill sergeants in our home, but being their best buddy instead of being a man of God will not cut it. see, they only learn how to be men of God by watching how you live as a man of God. How you treat and respect your wife. Do you want your son or daughter speaking the way to their husband or wife someday, the way you speak to your wife? They learn these things at home. Now, the other day, my niece, who never thought too much about what she watches on television, heard her little boy say something that he didn't approve of. Where did you hear that? I heard it on TV. Whoa, she's living in a whole new world now. Her little boy listens to what's on TV, watches TV. Now she's got to watch or not watch. That's what it should be. What's on TV. If she wants to be that example. Men, we need to be the same. We need to be careful what we say. They learn how to be men and women of God by watching how you go about doing business. Do you cheat your boss? You bring things home from work that are not yours. Oh, they won't miss a few ink pens or a few paper clips or fill in the blank. A guy asked his boss who worked in the brickyard if he could take home broken bricks. The boss says, well, I don't have any need for them, so take them home. So every week he can get a wheelbarrow there at work and wheelbarrow the bricks home. After about a month of this, the boss thought, this is really strange. I'd like to see what he's building with these bricks. So he went to the guy's house. There he saw this pile of broken bricks. And the wheelbarrow was out front of the house saying, wheelbarrows for sale. He was stealing wheelbarrows. They learn how to be men and women of God by observing how you spend time with God. Now, this may make some of you mad at me, but I'll tell you, spending time out hunting and fishing on Sunday instead of being in church does not make one holy. You might tell me you're communing with God, but I will tell you you're waiting to kill a fish, a turkey, a pheasant, or a deer. That's what you're really doing. You might be out there going, oh, it's beautiful out here. God, you made a beautiful place. But that's not church. That's not where you become holy. That's not where you really worship. The Bible is clear. It says Christ died for the church. Now, the ones that should be hearing this, of course, are not here, right? Right. So I'll put it on the internet, and I'll send the sermon out in my notes, and if they ever watch it and read it. Now, I just should say this, that people do pay attention to what I put on there. Because since the 9th of June, we've had over 100 people go to our website, the church. And I put the sermon on there. So that tells you that people are reading what's out there. Pray for those people that may get them in church. But if you think that being out there hunting or fishing or going to car races or watching football instead of coming to church is worship, you're wrong, because God says that is idolatry. And they take the place of worship in the church. And there's no place for idolatry in a believer's heart and life. You see, Paul wrote that we are to love our children. That requires being examples in all ways.